afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. We are at the end of a very, very long week. So it's time for the weekend preview with EFL action coming up this weekend. I'm your host, Alfie Burns. Joining me, my two colleagues, Billy and Adam. Billy, how are you getting on?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. As we were just discussing off air, every game week at the moment seems to have a lot of importance in it. And I think as we continue to progress to the end of the season, it's just going to get more important. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into some of these games.
And how are you getting on, Adam? Looking forward to the weekend?
If I didn't support the team that I support, then yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. It's going to be entertaining either way. I'm pretty sure Billy's kind of looking forward to another win for Luton anyway. But that's only consolation that I can take from this one.
Absolutely. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. We're running through 7 fixtures from across the Championship, League 1 and League 2. So if you want to get involved in some of the discussion, please do get yourselves in the comments. It's always great to hear from you. And as we usually do, we're going to kick things off with the Sky Bet Championship. First game we're going to look at then is tonight's clash between West Bromwich Albion and Huddersfield Town. West Brom, poor form recently, dropping down to 13th in the table. Huddersfield Town sitting 3rd in the table heading into the weekend. We'll start with the home side, West Brom. Despite Steve Bruce's difficult start at the Hawthorns, he's got his first win under his belt now against Hull City recently. That's going to give West Brom a little bit of confidence coming into this fixture, isn't it, Billy?
Yeah, it must do. Of course, it was a better performance and obviously they got the result from it. I think Steve Bruce, he's at that point in the season now where the playoffs are a bit too far away, and I know it's only 8 or 9 points or whatever it is, but the sort of chasing pack is growing, making it that little bit more difficult for them to inflict any more pressure. So I think it's about securing a strong enough finish, something to build upon for next season, and hopefully for West Brom that started with that victory against Hull. As I said, it was a much better performance, and we know what West Brom can do when they're on song. Showed it at the start of the season, and they've got the individual quality, and they showed at the start of the season that they got the collective quality too to put in big performances and get big results as well. And it'll be interesting to see how they get on against the Huddersfield side, who just can't be beaten at the moment. It seems they're on an incredible run of form, and I don't know what to make of this game because obviously it's West Brom have just picked up that victory. Will that play into their hands, or a Huddersfield? We talk of the manager of the month curse as well. So whether that's going to be there for all to see tonight, that's going to be a big question.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos Corberán winning February's Manager of the Month award. That was announced earlier today. It's been a great run for Huddersfield in all competitions, really. A really long unbeaten run, but that did come to an end in the FA Cup on Monday, which makes it quite interesting to see what Huddersfield's reactions are going to be like tonight, doesn't it, Adam?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just shows you really the strength and depth that they have in their squads when, they made quite a few changes, obviously, for the Nottingham Forest FA Cup game, and they still look pretty strong to me. And that's kind of the secret really behind why they're, so successful. They've got players who are ready to step up wherever really. I know that they probably didn't deserve to go through at the City ground. I thought that Nottingham Forest were the better side on the day. Obviously, they were lucky to kind of not go behind early on. I thought, Sorba Thomas should have scored really in the first half. That was a glorious opportunity. Obviously, it was a fantastic save. But I think he should have kind of capitalised on that. Great kind of tactic for the corner, though. I'm wondering if they can use that kind of as a marginal gain kind of at the weekend. That could be something that they could use. But I think for me, the fact that they did rotate their side kind of, for the FA Cup, I think will probably pay dividends this weekend. They'll be reasonably fresh, considering that they're in action on Monday. So, I don't think they'd be too disheartened by it, by the loss. And I think if they were to be too disheartened, then I think you kind of have to question their mentality, because I thought that it was it wasn't obviously the best performance, but it was a reasonably decent one. And I think that they can still take quite a bit of confidence coming into this clash because of their league unbeaten run, and they have as good a chance as any of getting all 3 points tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke to Carlos Corberán and Dwayne Holmes earlier in the week, and that was very much the focus, just on to the next one. And there's an outside chance that Levi Colwill and Lewis O'Brien will be recovered by tonight's fixture. So that's one to keep an eye on. Let's get some predictions then. Billy, up first.
Why not start a weekend preview with a boring 1-0? I'm going to go 1-0 again.
And what about you, Adam?
Yeah, I've gone with 1-0. I had to think about it before the preview started, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 and sit on the fence.
Let's see if that plays out then tonight. A great game to kick off the Championship action this weekend. On to tomorrow then. One game that catches the eye is Millwall's clash with Middlesbrough at the Den. Millwall, very, very good at home. It's got to be said. It's always a difficult place to go. The Den, and they're sort of looking like dark horses for the playoffs in my eyes, Millwall. This would be a big result for them if they can turn Middlesbrough over, wouldn't it, Billy?
Yeah, it'd be massive for them. I don't think too many people would have given them the label of dark horses because it seemed an impossible task a few weeks ago. Millwall even being in the playoff picture, so the fact that they've picked up 16 points in the last 6 and now sit 4 points off the playoffs is an incredible achievement in itself. And as you say, there's still time left, still a lot of football to be played, a lot of playoff rivals playing against each other, and this is a perfect opportunity of that happening again. And Millwall will fancy their chances against anybody to win at home. So it's definitely going to be a tough test against the Middlesbrough side, who really, really struggle at the moment playing away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Middlesbrough's form, 3 defeats in 5 is a little bit of a worry. I was there at Bramall Lane for the 4-1 defeat to Sheffield United in the week, and Chris Wilder really couldn't seem to put his finger on that performance and how his side were up here against Tottenham, but then turning in the worst performance since he's gone in against Sheffield United. Do you think that the FA Cup's a little bit of a distraction for Middlesbrough at the minute, Adam, of course, moving through to the quarterfinals?
I'm not too sure, really. I think that, you look at how bouncing the home crowd was against Tottenham, and you think that would be a bit of a boost. Maybe it's kind of in terms of physicality, maybe that's quite a strain on them. I know that they went very strong, against Tottenham, and obviously, that paid dividends in the end and kind of raised their morale. So there's a double-edged sword here. Do you keep players fresh, or do you try and keep morale high and that sort of thing? And that's obviously a similar kind of dilemma that Huddersfield had faced. But honestly, I mean, I wasn't expecting the 4-1 kind of scoreline at all. I was a bit like a disappointed dad, really. I'm like, you can do so much better than what you did in midweek. Some of the defending was very poor. I do think they missed Dyke still quite a lot. I thought he was absolutely immense versus Spurs, providing that real defensive kind of shield behind Jones. And I think that he was, much missed, really. It was a bit of kind of instability, perhaps, not to have him there. So I think, if he returns, and I think he's in line to return, then I think that could kind of pay dividends for them. But there's a part of me that also think this is kind of the perfect game from them. Obviously, I watched Millwall last week, and I think they were very solid, I think, going backwards. But in terms of going forwards, they didn't really display a lot of threat. And I think the fact that I don't think their defence will be under a huge amount of pressure at Middlesbrough, I think that will allow them to kind of push forward. And with the 2 that they've got up front, then that might kind of pay dividends for them. And obviously, there's always the risk that that they're going to kind of change up their strikers anyway, because they've got so much competition in that forward department. So, they're kind of unpredictable in that sense as well. I can see a couple of changes coming in as well. Obviously, as I said, Dyke still, I think, will come in for Lee Peltier, maybe. Obviously, the strike partnership, as I said, will probably be, switched up a little bit. Obviously, Balogun getting on the score sheet, which will be good for him. It wouldn't surprise me to see 1 or more changes. But, I think Chris Wilder will keep a level head in this one. And hopefully that will kind of work out for this weekend. But, yeah, I mean, the score at Bramall Lane was a little bit of a concerning one for me, especially as they stayed with 11 men.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big game, this one. Millwall entering the weekend in 9th and Middlesbrough in 8th. Let's get some predictions then for this game. Adam, up first.
I'm going to go with a 2-0 Middlesbrough win. I think they're going to get themselves back on track.
And what about you, Billy?
I'm going to go for another draw, but I'm going to go this time 2-2. And I know that's quite strange to say after Millwall recorded 0 shots during the week, but I just feel at the Den, they are a very, very strong outfit. They do create a lot more chances than when they do go away. But in terms of Middlesbrough's threat, I think they are still one of the better teams in the division, and led by Chris Wilder, who, you know, has been in this situation before. He's been at the top end of the Championship and has been very successful. So, yeah, again, very, very difficult to call, but I'll go 2-2.
Later on in the weekend, then, we've got Luton Town taking on Queen's Park Rangers, another massive, massive game in the Championship. We'll start with Billy's club, Luton. He absolutely loves to talk about them at the minute. I don't know why, when they're sitting sixth in the table. But one of the form sides in 2022, and another big game this weekend, and another big opportunity to put a statement 3 points on the board, Billy.
Yeah, another game against a playoff rival, and I think that's going to be the narrative now. I think that's going to be sort of the main story. There's so many of these playoff chasers at the moment that, the games just seem to keep on coming. And yeah, it's a really, really good opportunity, not just to earn another 3 points, but damage QPR's chances of reaching the playoffs as well. It seems crazy to think that QPR were, you know, vying for automatic promotion at one point, not too long ago. And, you know, the tables have turned massively. Luton have hit form, QPR have seen a downturn in form. And it's very strange because QPR always seem to get the better of Luton. Ever since we've returned to the Championship, QPR have just always turned up. So for that reason, I'm not going to disregard QPR at all. I'm not expecting a comfortable win, but there's a lot to love about this Luton team at the moment. Again, operating on the lowest budget in the division, and just some of the performances that they're putting in at the moment, not the most eye-catching, but you can see every player is playing for Nathan Jones and playing knowing that promotion to the Premier League is actually a genuine possibility at the moment. And a similar kind of feeling to Huddersfield, where a lot of players have come in and come out, but you know, squad depth at Luton is really strong at the moment. And, you know, we're not blessed with the most gifted individuals, but everyone within that squad can do a job. And I think that's a massive thing, especially when injuries are being picked up quite regularly and with the frequency of fixtures at the moment.
I can understand why you're not wanting to sort of downplay Queen's Park Rangers, but I'm not convinced by Mark Warburton's side at all at the minute. I've just, you know, I can just see them going in one direction, really, at the minute. Adam, for me, this feels like it's going to be quite a big weekend for QPR if they're going to get themselves, you know, back on track and really cement themselves in the top six. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I can understand Billy's kind of diplomacy because obviously, you know, when it's your own team, it's just you want to be extra careful. I remember being like that with Reading back in 16-17 when we were third and I thought we'd drop out the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, in terms of QPR, I mean, last week they weren't too bad against Cardiff. I thought they put in a reasonably positive performance. I think I would be pushed to say that David Marshall made 2 errors and not one. I think for the first goal, I thought that he should have had stronger wrists. Obviously, that was a more obvious mistake. But in terms of the second goal, I thought, you know, he was standing on that side of the free kick. You know, where the ball went in, I thought that he could have perhaps, you know, made a better attempt. But as Marcus said earlier in the week, I thought it was a reasonably positive performance. But I kind of get where you're coming from as well, Alfie, in terms of, you know, kind of the mental fragility. I can definitely see them kind of slipping out of the playoff. Well, obviously they already have slipped out of the playoffs, but I can see them kind of slipping down further in the next couple of games, unless they can get their act together. Obviously, Stoke have been kind of similar in terms of, you know, taking quite a fall from grace. Really, they look to have a much improved season. And obviously, QPR will want to secure their place in the top six, and they've got the players to do it. I think it's just obviously the limited kind of options up top in recent times. It's obviously kind of proved to be costly, and they're not perhaps showing the same defensive solidity that they showed kind of earlier in the season. So it is a real shame for them. You know, whether they've kind of run out of steam too early, I'm not 100% sure, but it is a bit of a source of worry for me at QPR. I'd be, you know, between them and Blackburn, I'd say though, you know, kind of QPR are more likely to drop out at this point.
Let's get some predictions for this game. Then we'll let you go first, Billy, given it's Luton.
It's so difficult to disregard the talent that QPR have. I know they haven't been on song, but the likes of Chris Willock, Elias Chair, Rob Dickey, these are players that we've been associating with the Premier League all season. So it's difficult, but then Luton's home form is a reason to be positive. I'll go for 1-0 Luton, but I'm not very confident with it.
What about you, Adam?
I was tempted to go for like a 4 or 5-0 Luton to make Billy squirm in his seat, but I'm going to go with a 1-0 Luton as well. I think it'll be quite a tight game, but I think in the end, the home advantage will be the difference between the two sides, and obviously the vastly differing confidence as well.
Moving down into League One, then we're going to start towards the bottom of the division. A big game between Doncaster Rovers and Gillingham. Doncaster sitting 23rd and Gillingham in 22nd. Two sides currently, facing up to the prospect of dropping into League Two. But in recent weeks, both Doncaster and Gillingham have threatened to put a little run of results together, and they're sort of flirting with the idea of pulling themselves to safety and in the final sort of 10, 11 games of the season. Billy, do we give either Doncaster or Gillingham hope of doing that?
I think we definitely can give both teams hope. I think a lot rides on the result on Saturday. Of course, whoever wins, if there is a winner, will bolster their chances of survival massively. So, a lot will ride on this game. Doncaster, I think mentality-wise, it's improved. And I think that's a big reason as to why results have shifted. I think they found themselves stuck earlier in the season and stuck in that same sort of mentality of losing games. And of course, that's going to be the case with such a young squad. But I think that they're showing more fight now in terms of the signings they made in January. Been very impressive, especially Josh Martin, the extra dynamic he gives them on the wing, and been impressed with Mipo Odebeko recently as well. So two very, very good players, two good young players that are going to probably play a big part in what remains of this season. I think looking at Doncaster specifically, I think I've mentioned it already, but that element of inexperience could prove pivotal. You often see in League One teams that have that, those sort of leaders throughout the side, people deployed into the side to, stop the rot. I think that could be massive. And I think for that reason, it's going to be difficult for Doncaster to get out of the rot they're currently in. But I think the most surprising part at the moment is that the teams just outside the relegation zones are in free fall. And I think that's something that will keep them optimistic about their chances, realising that, we might lose a game, but the likes of Shrewsbury and Wimbledon just keep on losing games, and that's going to be massive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you've sort of touched on it there, Billy, but a win for either of these sides this weekend, given what they've done in recent weeks, would just give them that added belief, especially with the teams above them if they continue to keep losing. Adam, how big would a win be for either Doncaster or Gillingham?
I think it's absolutely massive. I think that obviously, the 4-0 defeat at Cheltenham for Doncaster is a massive blow to them, really. I know that they responded well to their 4-0 against Pompey not so long ago last month. But I think for me, it feels different because obviously Cheltenham are a recently promoted side. So it does feel like quite a considerable blow to them, really. So, to get a win would be the perfect response, really, and would set them on the right tracks. I think obviously kind of defending aerial balls and set pieces are a little bit of a problem at the moment. But I think their draw against AFC Wimbledon not so long ago has kind of kept them in it. But, that means absolutely nothing, I think, if they can't get the win. Obviously, Gillingham have got the game in hand as well. And obviously for Gillingham, it would be absolutely massive for them as well. They've made a semi-decent start, I think, under Neil Harris. Obviously, it's, they're not pulling any trees up or anything like that. But, they're in a relegation dogs fight. And I think you can only expect so much from the Gills, really. I think in terms of the Bolton game, I think the red card completely changed it. I thought they were pretty much in it. Obviously, they were separated by an absolute wonder goal early on, and then obviously Bolton have just taken full advantage. Really, obviously with the deserved red, and it was a deserved red, but they've taken full advantage of that. But no, strangely enough, obviously it was a 3-0 loss for them, but I think they can take positives from that. And if they can go into this game with a little bit of confidence, then I'd definitely back them to take the 3 points. And for me, obviously, as Billy's mentioned, with the teams outside the relegation zone, kind of in that free fall right now, especially AFC Wimbledon with their mental fragility, I think that they can, they can make a real mark between now and the end of the season. And out of the two teams, I think I'd certainly back Gillingham to kind of get out of it at the moment, and a win for them would be absolutely humongous.
Yeah, a lot on the line then going into this fixture. Let's get some predictions. Adam, you can go first.
I'm going to go with a 2-1 away, obviously, to Gillingham. I think that they're just in a slightly better kind of situation mentally at the moment, and obviously physically in the table as well. So I think for me, it would be a 2-1 to Gillingham.
And how about you, Billy?
I was going to go the same, but then I realised we've gone very, very similar, our scores so far. So I'm going one better, and I'm going to go 3-2 Gillingham.
Up to the other end of League One then. We've got third versus second. MK Dons against Wigan Athletic, both on the same number of points heading into the weekend. Wigan with their games in hand, though, as we keep discussing on Football League World TV. We're going to start with MK, though, and given Wigan's games in hand, Billy, this is a game that they really need to be winning if they're going to have a chance of automatic promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, first of all, a lot of credit has to go to Liam Manning and the entire squad for what they are doing this season. In terms of the players they lost, in terms of the chaos that commenced the season with Russell Martin leaving, with not too much time to go before the season started. I think what they've been able to achieve is incredible. And they come into this game winning the last 5 games. They've beaten the league leaders Rotherham at their own ground, and going down to 10 men relatively early on as well. It just shows that they've got the character to match the ability. And I think we're getting to the point of the season where character and the mental state of mind becomes a lot more important than just plain ability. And I think that's something that is difficult to knock out with MK Dons, and why they're doing so well, and why they're continuing to shock teams and shock us EFL fans to be in third place and in with a shout of automatic promotion. It's good to see from the neutral point of view, because Wigan and Rotherham had a sizable lead, and I don't think many people would have given any other teams much of a chance, given their superiority and the fact that both the teams I've just mentioned have their squads there to really compete and to really take it to a new level. So the fact that MK Dons are in with a shout is a real credit to everything that Liam Manning's doing this season, and a big credit to their recruitment as well, because they lost some big players in January.
On to Wigan then, and where we're talking about MK potentially having to win this game to give themselves that real chance of automatic promotion this season, given Wigan's games in hand. Adam, do you think that this is a case of must not lose rather than must win?
Yeah, I think, if you offered them a point tomorrow, I think that they take it. I wasn't overly convinced with Wigan against AFC Wimbledon last weekend. I thought they didn't kind of put in a performance that kind of deserved that kind of second place and that automatic promotion spot. Obviously they got points on the board, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day. But the DW Stadium, I would have kind of expected them to be, show perhaps a bit more quality. Obviously, they'll be very disappointed as well about going out of the EFL Trophy against Sutton in midweek. But obviously, that was I think they made like 10 or 11 changes for that one, so they should be, as Huddersfield are, they should be reasonably fresh kind of going into this one. So hopefully that decision has paid dividends in the end. They seem kind of so superior perhaps in the table because of those 3 games in hand. But MK Dons last weekend, I thought absolutely superb against Rotherham United. I think for MK Dons, I don't think it's necessarily a free hit, because I think they need to get 1 or 3 points out of this one. But the pressure is off a little bit because I think if they'd lost against Rotherham, I think they would have been coming into this game thinking that they've got to get 3 points. So it will take the pressure off them in that sense, and I think that will kind of be good for them and kind of work as a psychological kind of advantage. but I think the freshness, I think, might end up, being the difference in the end for them. Hopefully, for their sake that it will be. But yeah, it's as you said, I think this is kind of a must not lose instead of a must win game. And if they can get a point out of this one, I think it'll be quite a big boost for them. And I think that'll then give them the kind of impetus to go on and clinch automatic promotion. But they're not home and hosed yet, as we've seen.
Let's get some predictions then before we move into League Two. MK Dons versus Wigan. Billy?
Again, it's really, really difficult to steer away from a 1-1 given Wigan's away form. I think they've averaged 2.25 points away from home this season, which is an incredible away record for any club in any division. But then MK Dons, that they just seem to have this feel-good factor around the club at the moment. Obviously got the talent, obviously got the character as they've been showing. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 MK Dons win. And
what about you, Adam?
I think psychology will play a big part in this one. I think, even if, say, MK Dons go down to 10 men and go 1-0 down again, Wigan will know that they're going to be on their way back. So I think for me, that kind of psychological edge for MK Dons will be, absolutely crucial for them. And that's why I'm going to go with a 1-0 home win in this one.
Some League Two action this evening then as Tranmere host Mansfield, two sides currently sitting in the League Two playoff places. They feel that they're going in very different directions though at this moment in time. Tranmere are falling away from where they were earlier in the season, and Mansfield are really sort of motoring through the gears and looking a really good side at the moment. Billy, let's talk Tranmere. Can they get things back on track tonight against Mansfield?
I think it will certainly be a tough ask for them to beat a Mansfield side that have been so devastating. I want to say recent weeks, but it's been recent months now that they've been in incredible form and showing, shown League One quality, I think, for quite a lot this season. And it's difficult to make much of a case for Tranmere in recent form. I think it appears that they probably peaked a little bit too early, similar to what we're speaking about QPR, but they still are a squad full of talented players. They've got the squad there that can steer themselves back into automatic promotion contention. But now we're speaking about them as dropping out of the playoffs. It's really took a turn for the worst, and I think the difficult thing for me to comprehend is the fact that it's Mickey Mellon at the wheel, and he's been in this situation a fair few times in his career, and you'd think he'd be the kind of manager that would start to be peaking at this kind of time. And there still is a large enough chunk of the season left to turn things around, but as things stand, it's hard to make much of a case for Tranmere.
And how about you, Adam? How do you kind of feel about Tranmere at the moment, and whether they can get themselves on track against Mansfield?
It's going to be a very tough one. Obviously, I keep on mentioning psychology, but as you mentioned at the start, it's one team that's going down at the moment, and one team that's kind of on their way up. And I think for me, I don't think they have really many main goal scorers, but their defence has kind of come through for them. And I think for me, the fact that it has finally buckled has kind of been the reason behind that. I think they need someone to kind of take the goals perhaps by the scruff of the neck and score some more. It's easier said than done, but there does need to be someone or another kind of stepping up to the plate and making a real difference for Tranmere. Obviously, Kane Hemmings is one man who's kind of stepped up, and I think he's been a very shrewd addition for them. And I think that his presence in there will certainly give them a boost as well. And obviously, they had the well-defined back three system as well. But I think the defence is a little bit of a concern for them. Obviously, mainly been quite good throughout the season. 30 goals in 35 games conceded is not too much of a bad record at all. But perhaps they've been far too reliant on their defence, and maybe that will give them kind of the attack, the kick that they need to kind of go on now and start scoring more goals, because without those goals, I think that they'll only fall further down the table. So at least they certainly know kind of that. I think they know that they need to improve both ends of the pitch, but not just the defence, but certainly the attack as well. Because over the course of the whole season, has their attack been worthy of promotion? I mean, I'm not sure that's something that they'll have to look at themselves and they'll have to have a look in the mirror.
Let's get some predictions for tonight's game then. Tranmere versus Mansfield. Adam?
I'm going to go with because obviously the momentum. I'm going to go with the 2-1 Mansfield win. I think this game's kind of the perfect game for them. It's kind of teed them up nicely, kind of where the two sides are at the moment.
And how about you, Billy?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Mansfield. I still feel that Mansfield will lose a game soon and they'll be tested mentally, but I don't think this will be the game.
On to another fixture in League Two this weekend then, and one that's quite intriguing, really, even though they're nowhere near each other in the table. Forest Green, the league leaders, versus Bradford City, who currently sit 15th in the table. Forest Green, remarkably, for how good they've been this season, haven't won in 5, but Bradford are struggling to get going since Mark Hughes' appointment. And it's interesting because you think eventually that Hughes' first victory is going to come, but is it going to come against the league leaders, Billy?
It's very, very difficult. As you say, Forest Green haven't won in 5, and that's kind of the stats that you didn't think you'd associate with them at all this season. How dominant they've been, how clinical in front of goal in terms of dominating the midfield as well. It just seems individual battles. It's just been all pointing towards Forest Green's success, and the fact that it's slowed down is quite strange to me. And they're entering dangerous territory now where it has been 5, and if they extend it to 6, and then these sort of chasing teams are going to start licking their lips and thinking that we can actually challenge their dominance this season. And there's a lot of teams in good form around there. I know we speak of Tranmere and Northampton that have gone off the boil a bit, but Mansfield and Port Vale are still around there, and there's Exeter as well, some teams that will be licking their lips, if they don't secure a victory here. And I think it will be interesting from a Forest Green perspective. Will Rob Edwards change it up? He's been operating with a 3-4-1-2 all season, and we've seen with Valerian Ismail, when things don't go right, do you change things up? Ismail didn't, and that was pretty much the start of his downfall. And it's just having faith in your ability to switch things up. And I think that's the kind of thoughts that will be going through his head at the moment. Of course, he's a very young manager, 39 years of age still. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting one I'll be keeping my eye on this weekend, as well as my own team.
Let's get some predictions then before we wrap things up. Billy, Forest Green versus Bradford.
I'm trying to... I'm going to go 2-1 Forest Green. I think they should be getting back to winning ways. And I know Mark Hughes is looking for this first win, but they're just not in good form. And there's no real signs that they'll get back to winning ways against the league leaders.
And how about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think 4 of the 5 last kind of games have been away for Forest Green. So I think I kind of back them to kind of get back on the back to winning ways at home. And I think I'm going to go with a 3-1 home win. I think that Bradford might actually take the lead, but I think Forest Green will show real character and come back and secure a 3-1 win, and I think that'll be the catalyst for them to go on and win the title.
That concludes this afternoon's weekend preview show. Thanks to Billy and Adam. Sorry about that, Adam. It's been a long week, like I said right at the top of the show, for joining me. And thanks to anybody that's joined us across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. A good weekend of EFL action coming up, so do enjoy it, and we'll see you again next week.